All right, so today we're ditching the typical self-help stuff. We're doing a deep dive on the subtle art of not giving a feck.
By Mark Manson.
Exactly. We're going to dig into some excerpts. And look, it's not about becoming, heartless or something.
Yeah, it's not about apathy.
It's about figuring out what really matters and
Yeah.
giving those things your all.
It's about realizing that our focus and energy, it's valuable. Like, we only have so much, right? So we got to be picky about where we spend it.
That is a great way to put it. And Manson, he jumps right in with this story about Charles Bukowski, the poet.
Oh, yeah, I know Bukowski.
Lived kind of hard life, right?
Right.
But here's the thing, his tombstone, it says, "Don't try." How crazy is that?
It's funny, right? Because Bukowski, even with his success, he always kind of saw himself as like a mess. And it was that willingness to be himself, even the messy parts, that I think really fueled his work.
So instead of chasing this perfect version of ourselves, which, let's be honest, most of us never reach,
Right.
maybe the key is just being okay with who we are now, flaws and all.
Totally. That's where it starts. Because that constant striving to be better, it can actually hold us back. Manson calls it the feedback loop from hell.
Oh man, the feedback loop from hell. Have you ever been on social media and you see everyone's perfect lives and you start feeling jealous?
All the time.
And then you feel bad about feeling
Yeah,
jealous.
exactly. It's like you're stuck in this cycle of feeling bad about feeling bad. And social media, it just makes it worse, because it's also curated.
So how do we escape this loop? Because Manson, he says it's about being choosy with what we care about.
Exactly. It's realizing we can't get wrapped up in every little thing. Like, he has this great example in the book. Imagine this. An old lady throwing a tantrum over a 30-cent coupon.
Serious?
It's like, come on, is it really worth the energy?
Right. It makes you think, what am I spending my energy on?
Yeah, are you going to let a traffic jam ruin your day? Or are you going to save that energy for, I don't know, your family, a hobby you love, something that actually matters?
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting because Manson argues that real happiness, it often comes from solving problems, not just avoiding them.
It's true. It's in those moments of struggle, where you actually overcome something. That's where you find a sense of accomplishment.
It's like that story he tells about the prince who thinks being rich will make him happy. And then that doesn't work out, so he tries suffering, thinking that's the answer.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, neither one really did it for him.
No, of course not. It's like you can't have a rainbow without a little rain, right? Life is going to have ups and downs. It's about learning to roll with them. And maybe even more importantly, finding meaning in those ups and downs.
So it's not about pretending problems don't exist, which is impossible. It's about choosing which ones we want to tackle. Right?
Absolutely, and how we're going to tackle them.
And how do we even define success? Without comparing ourselves to other people, which is so easy to do, he uses these two guys as examples, Dave Mustaine from Megadeth and Pete Best, the drummer who got kicked out of the Beatles right before they made it big.
Oh, wow. What a contrast. I'm guessing they had very different ideas of success.
Totally. Mustaine, despite being crazy successful, he always measured himself against Metallica, his old band. And because of that, he always felt like he was failing.
Even with all that success.
Meanwhile, you have Best, who found his happiness in family and a more low-key life. So it's really up to you to decide what success means.
You get to write your own definition. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's.
And honestly, that's a really powerful message. So we talked about choosing our battles, right, and defining success, on our own terms. But how do we actually do that? Manson, he says it starts with no.
It's powerful, that word. And it's not just about saying no to other people. It's also about saying no to ourselves, to those impulses that might not actually be good for us.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Think about it. Constantly, we're being told, buy this, do that, be more this, be more that. Learning to say no, it's about creating space for what actually matters.
Yeah, it's about boundaries.
Yeah.
And not feeling guilty about it.
Exactly. It's like realizing your time and energy, that's valuable. You get to choose where it goes. It's okay to be protective of that.
You know what's funny? Manson actually uses Romeo and Juliet to talk about this.
Wait, Romeo and Juliet? The play?
Yeah. As tragic as that story is, it's also a warning, right? About what happens when you don't have healthy boundaries in relationships. It's that need to please other people, even if it hurts you.
So learning to say no, it's also about saying yes. Really committing to the things that matter to us. But commitment's scary, right? What if you change your mind later? Or what if you're missing out on something better? Oh, that FOMO is real. It keeps so many people stuck. You're so busy keeping your options open, you never actually commit to anything. But here's the thing. Manson says that when you do commit, like truly commit to something, a relationship, a career, whatever it is, it can actually be incredibly freeing.
It's like once you've made the decision, you can stop second-guessing yourself. Put all
Yeah.
your energy into it.
Exactly. No more what ifs. You made your choice. Now own it.
So how do you know when to commit and when to walk away? That just seems so tricky.
It is tough, and there's no magic formula. But it goes back to knowing your values, like what's truly important to you. What are you willing to go all in for, even when it gets hard? When you know that, when you know your values, those decisions, they become a little bit clearer.
And speaking of tough stuff, Manson, he doesn't shy away from big topics. Like, he even talks about death. He tells this really personal story about losing his friend and how that forced him to really confront his own fear of dying.
It's heavy stuff, for sure. But it's real, you know? It's something we all deal with, whether we acknowledge it or not.
Like that saying, you don't know what you've got till it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about, our time being limited, it can make us appreciate the present moment so much more.
It's true. Manson, he connects this to the work of Ernest Becker. Becker talked about how fear of death, it drives so much of what we do. Like we build these immortality projects, our careers, our families, all these things. It's like we're trying to outrun the inevitable. But according to Becker, the real freedom, it comes from accepting it, accepting that we're mortal.
So it's not about pretending death doesn't exist. It's about really, truly living while we can.
That's it. It's about realizing our time, it's precious. We get to choose how we spend it, what matters to us, what brings us joy, connection, purpose. What are those things?
So we're talking about, like, living a life that's true to ourselves.
Right.
But how do you even figure that out? Like, it can feel kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a big question.
It is. It's like, where do I even start?
It's interesting you say that because Manson, he actually talks about this.
He does.
Yeah, he says it's important to just take action, even before you have everything figured out.
Okay, so, like, even if you don't feel ready.
Exactly. He calls it action faking it till you make it.
I like that. So instead of waiting for, like, this perfect moment of inspiration or motivation,
Right, just dive in.
you just got to start doing stuff.
Exactly, because often action, it leads to motivation.
Oh, that's interesting.
He uses this example of like when he was traveling the world.
Oh, yeah, he talks about that in the book.
At first, it was all about, escaping his problems, chasing these highs.
Yeah.
But as he traveled, experienced different cultures, he started to realize something.
What was that?
That real fulfillment. It wasn't about the places, it was about who he was becoming along the way.
So it was the journey, not the destination.
Exactly. Remember when he talks about going to Russia?
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like thrown off by how direct everyone is.
Totally. He thought they were being rude.
Right, but then he realizes it's not rudeness, it's just honesty.
It's refreshing in a way.
And it challenged him to be more authentic himself.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's like pushing yourself outside your comfort zone can actually help you grow.
100%. Like that's saying that's where the magic happens. Being willing to try new things, risk failure, that's how you discover new possibilities.
So it's not about having all the answers. It's about being open to, like, learning as you go.
Exactly. And you know what else Manson talks about? That's a tough lesson.
What's that?
Rejection.
Ooh, yeah, nobody likes rejection.
But he says being okay with hearing no, it's crucial for growth.
Really? How so?
Because it lets you set boundaries,
Yeah?
in all parts of your life.
Yeah, guess it does.
It lets you say no to things that aren't serving you so you can say yes to what matters.
It's about realizing that not everything is meant for you.
Exactly. And that's okay.
Sometimes no is the best thing you can say.
For yourself and for others.
So as we wrap up here, our deep dive on the subtle art of not giving a feck.
It's been quite a ride.
It has. What's the, biggest takeaway for our listeners? What do you hope they walk away with?
For me, it's this. Life, it's going to be messy. It's going to be unpredictable.
And that's okay.
Exactly. It's about embracing the ups and downs, finding meaning in all of it, choosing your battles, setting boundaries, saying no when you need to so you can say yes to the things that light you up.
It's about defining success for yourself.
Yes. And remembering that your time and energy are precious. So ask yourself, what are you willing to give a feck about?
What a great question to end on. Thanks for diving into this with me.